So welcome to the fabulous Siobhan. Let's see your jumper. And you to say something so we can hear you.
It's fabulous.
So this is Sandra with Siobhan. This is our Friday afternoon where we're chatting about all things to do with getting control over alcohol. So Siobhan, what I was mentioning to you earlier, something I think it's great to have a conversation about is we always talk about alcohol being sneaky, right? And one of the ways it's sneaky is when we drink a lot regularly, we start to tell ourselves that it doesn't have that big an effect on us because we've got, wait for it, high tolerance, right?
Yeah.
So like when you think back when you were stuck, was that something you used to say to yourself?
Oh yeah, I had hollow legs. I could go forever. It didn't bother me. I could go to toe with men twice my size. It was fine, but because it didn't really affect me, and it was, and I think and I really did believe it. That and it was almost like a badge of honor. That's how you do it. I mean, and don't forget, was it the 90s with like the ladette culture, and that was kind of ingrained that if you couldn't keep going all night, then what was it, go big or go home? So we all went big.
Yeah.
And said it didn't affect us, and we were fine the next morning when we really weren't, but we told ourselves that we believed it.
Yeah. So like when you look back, like even in like more recently, right? Like so like when you were like before we started working together, right? Like the next, like if you like you regularly drank like a bottle of wine roughly?
Yeah,
right.
A couple of days.
So did you find yourself saying to yourself, well, it's not that bad because I've got high tolerance, so it's not affecting me the same way?
Yeah, and a bottle of wine, but it wasn't sit down and drink a bottle of wine. It was function as well. It was clean the fish tank. I'll have a glass of wine while I do that, because everybody does that, don't they?
Yeah.
No, it was just because but the more I drank, the more I drank. So, and it just increased, but because my tolerance was just growing and growing, and
yeah,
it was affected.
And the thing that I think is really interesting about what you said, like you were still doing stuff, right? So, because sometimes, like, I know what I used to think was, right, well, if I haven't fallen over, if I didn't lose my phone when I was out at night, or like, it was like if I wasn't falling over drunk or like slurring my words, or there wasn't like a big argument, then it was fine, right? It was absolutely fine. It was the same as if I hadn't been drinking. And I think like I did really, like, I think part of me did believe that. It's interesting how I guess we can't see it, right? So we are saying to ourselves, oh, it's fine, like nobody notices, like, because we speak to people that are, they come home and they try and make sure that their family only think they're having a glass where they're actually having a bottle. And then they're saying to themselves, well, nobody else seen me. And I get it, right? I mean, obviously there's no judgment, because like I used to always tell myself that. But did you notice that yourself? Like what like with your daughters, were you sort of trying to play it down?
Oh yeah, hide it. And it was just the glass, and and it was not, sort of, wasn't obvious when I actually started. It wasn't there straight away. I mean, later on in the evening it would just be there on the table, but to start off with, it just, it's almost like pretend it wasn't there. And then it got to the point where you actually weren't that bothered. But I think you were saying about the tolerance and going out. I think you'd be in the pub and you think, oh, look at them. I think they've had enough. But not, if I actually held a mirror up to myself, it would be like, maybe I should have gone home as well. But you look at others, and it's other people's problem. You don't actually see it in yourself. But yeah, the tolerance just grew, and one bottle, start the next bottle. see how far we can get with that. So
Yeah, and I like that thing about looking at other people. I can remember like at a Christmas party, and there'd be so many Christmas nights out where I would get really drunk and make like a real fool of myself. But I remember one party where there was like one guy and he was getting like, I mean, he was getting carried out by like two people. Like one person had his arms and the other person had his legs, and getting put into an Uber because he was like so drunk. And I can remember like looking at him, right, and feeling two things, right? One was like I knew this guy and he was a nice guy. And I immediately sort of played it forward for him the way, you know, the way that you describe. I immediately thought that is going to be horrible. It was a Friday night. It's going to be horrible for him waking up on Monday, right? And then the second thing I remember thinking was, wow, I'm not that bad. Like it just, I was like, you know, I thought that's that. Like in my head, that's too much, right? But having a bottle of wine at the night out, then coming home and drinking more, that was okay because I didn't get carried out. So we can always find somebody that's worse.
yeah, yeah, it's true. But that was it. The night didn't end when you got home in the taxi. That was what it was for me. I mean, I drank less on a night out, but I'd come home and I would make up for it because that's what I just did. And you know, we learn that that's the alcohol talking to us. That you know, you have one and it just, you know, it creates the craving for more and for more. Hence the build up and the build up of the tolerance. So and that's how it works. But it's learning that. But looking back, it was yeah, it was definitely hollow legs. That's how I used to convince myself at the time. So
Yeah, and I think that thing about like when I like thought that it didn't affect me as much because like there's so many ways. Like I used to be like, well, you know, I still I still went to work, like I'd still go to the gym, I'd still go to yoga. You know, I could sit and list all the ways like everyone else drank the same amount, you know, it was a night out. And well, of course I drank a lot because it was a day I was celebrating, it was a day I was commiserating or whatever. And like there was loads and loads of things that I was able to say. And I think the thing that I think is interesting is that it's not until you've not drank for a while that you actually realize like how much a grip that it had.
yeah, I mean, you know, Saturdays and you know, you've got things to do, housey things, and various errands to run and things like that. Thank goodness my girls didn't take up ballet. You know, I didn't have an 8 o'clock in the morning Saturday ballet class to take them to or something like that. But you know, do. But I used to convince myself I'm all right, and I'd get up, and it'd be almost like, in spite of feeling dreadful, I'd get up and I'd power on, and I'd do all the things I had to do, and then you know the following, you know, I'd get up for work, and I would, you know, and it power through, and feeling pretty rubbish. But then when having the break, stopping, it was having drank for so, you know, for so long. You know, I didn't realise how good feeling good was. You know, so when it sort of like have a break and it was like, crikey, this is what mornings are like. This is how good it actually feels when you don't drink. And it's, you know, and that became a new, not an addiction, but that was my better choice. And so that's, you know, obviously you want to feel good. And it's almost like, you know, if you got ill and you couldn't drink, but we still did anyway, but you get ill, you think, actually feel a little bit better in yourself because you didn't have the alcohol swimming around making you feel dreadful as well. Yeah, you might have a temperature,
Yeah.
but you just didn't have that dragged down by alcohol feeling as well. But so
And then yeah, then you sort of saved up, you're like, well, I deserve a drink, I'm feeling better.
yeah, exactly. I'm feeling so much better now. I'm going to make myself feel dreadful again. But yeah.
Like in the thing about the tolerance as well that I think is interesting is that, you know, when I think about like socializing at work or like, you know, like just being working in a like a big organization, I would automatically surround myself with the other people that drank a lot as well. And so I was like, well, you know, it hasn't like everyone's doing it, hasn't really affected me. And it wasn't until like I stopped drinking that I realized that actually like there were other people that weren't drinking that amount, but also like in work that it was affecting me, you know, like if you can chat to other after a night out, it's like, oh, how are you feeling? Yeah, I'm feeling really bad as well. And you're like, yeah, we're all the same, right? And it's like, no, we're all the same and it's normal and it's not a big deal. And then when I stopped drinking, I was like, well, actually, I feel a lot sharper today. Like I
Mm.
trust myself, I trust my judgment, and I'm not putting things off. Like I'm not like, right, I'll do that when I'm feeling sharper. I'm like, I'll do that now. And that was a bit of an eye opener, right? So how I would have said to you, I you know, I'm fine, I'm a hard worker, I get through it. But it was taking me longer and I wasn't doing as well.
Yeah. What was it you said about your work? No big decisions on a Monday.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I remember I used to go in or like after on a Friday, if Thursday was a big night out, and I would say to myself, right, don't, you know, and I was like a senior manager, right? But I'd be like, right, don't make any big decisions. Don't you know, don't sort of make any big changes to like one of the spreadsheets and then sometimes I would say, don't draw any attention to yourself, right? So
Yeah.
I would I would be in and I would think, just you're fine, just keep a low profile.
Yeah, that I mean, work night out wasn't something that I've ever had to endure or enjoy. I don't know which way around it's supposed to be, but anyway, it's not something
Bit of
we really did.
both.
Only really Christmas time or something like that. You know, Christmas night out or something. But I look around and think, crikey, they don't really drink that much. They're all a bit of a dull bunch. But like you say, going into work, and it really was that don't draw any attention to yourself. You know, you're sitting there just like head down and just get through the day, you know, and just and plow through and but feeling pretty grim and just not actually wanting to engage in conversation. But now, I mean, crikey, the sharpness is just back. It's, you know, I'm on it, you know, juggling various bits and pieces and keeping all of the balls in the air all of the time, which is great, because before it'd be like, right, okay, you know, don't do too many things and don't take on something else. And if someone asks you to do something, just make your excuses and just sort of get that little package of work off your desk before actually attempting to take on more. And now it's not a problem. Just, you know, bring it on. And it's great. And but it's not just the work, everything. It's the personal side of things. It's the wit and the sharpness and the humor, and it's the sharpness and the clearness and the clarity and just seeing things clearly without a fog. You know, not a hangover fog or a drink fog. Just having the whole outlook and all of the rubbish moved out of the way, and it's just such a big difference. It's
Yeah, yeah. And I like I know that like you know, when I was still in my corporate job, like after I stopped drinking, like after a night out, I would see people the next day, and you know, the people that I knew that drank a lot, and I would notice like things like their voice was deeper, and they're you know, they looked pretty rough, their face looked rough, they were sort of, you could just tell by their manner, they were feeling a bit sheepish, they were a bit on the back foot, and they were looking for like reassurance, and I thought I could see by the way they were acting and talking, like it reminded me how I felt, right? And it's like, it's that the first thing I used to say is like, is Rod Stewart joined our team, right? Is Rod Stewart arrived? Somebody would be speaking with a really deep voice. And then it's like you look at them and you think like, oh my god, that was me. But the other thing that I used to do to try and make myself feel better is I would just go and do like online shopping, right? So I would buy something just to cheer myself up. And that, you know, that's like, it's like focus on something else. Like I would, you know, it would be like the exhaustion the next day of trying to get through the day with all the anxiety going through my head, trying to just focus on work. Like if somebody came over, if you got a minute, I'd be like, oh, oh, like what's, it's just, I've been caught. So, I mean, just removing all of that is, I mean, when I look at you, like, it's no wonder to me that you've been promoted. Um, but but
Yeah.
but you must feel like I can see how much more confident you are. Like, what have you noticed at work?
What have I noticed at work?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's the confidence and the drive and the passion and the zip, get it done, and the clarity. I mean, because I deal with numbers as well, I have to look at spreadsheets, and before it was like, and I hated it, but now I've got the sharpness, and I've got the whole toolbox, if you know what I mean. I've got the whole toolbox, and I've always been quite an outgoing person. But and we say about we always thought we were an extrovert, but actually when we stop drinking, we can sometimes find that we're not quite as extrovert. But I've still got the personality to bring people in, and it's having that clarity of how dealing with situations and people, and flipping your style. But and sometimes when you weren't feeling great, you actually couldn't care less what others wanted. You just sort of like just had to get on with it and just plow through. But it's just having the whole package of feeling good, feeling confident in myself, confident in my ability. The ability was always in there, but I'd always doubt myself because I was thinking, like you were saying, don't draw attention to yourself. Don't let anybody come too close because it might knock them out. So it was just all of that. Oh, don't speak to me. I don't want to speak to you back. It's just the whole feeling good, feeling clear, feeling sharp, and no fog. That's just the best bit. And confidence in that's
like
how
when you
I couldn't have worn
fabulous.
this. I could not have worn this a couple of years ago because I'd have had something else across it, probably with 4 letters.
So when you when you're going to work on a Monday now, like what do you notice that's different? Like how did you used to feel on a Monday?
Oh, crikey, Mondays. I used to dread Mondays. I absolutely dread Mondays. And I just used to feel sick of the thought of going to work on a Monday, and even like working from home and all of that kind of thing. I felt sick of the thought of turning on my laptop. I was just like, oh, crikey, here we go again. Oh, God almighty. Oh, I'll turn up. Just, the body was there, but everything else was good. This switched on at all. It was just vacant, and there's nothing worse than just having an empty suit or sat in a chair, is there? Doing nothing, no productivity, no life in them. It's just, you just want to, oh, hang on, is there anybody home? Hello? And, but now it's every day's a good day. That's the difference. It doesn't matter whether it's Monday, going to work, it's great. Weekends are great. Tuesday, midweek Wednesday, it's neither one thing nor the other. But it's just feeling good when you wake up. It's just it's not a challenge. Every day I used to wake up and it was almost like a battle. Just like, what crap's going to come my way today? Just leave me alone. But no, not now. It's just a huge shift. I think you might have noticed a huge shift in the last 18 months now, Sandra.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's fantastic.
It feels good. I might get a new jumper.
Yeah. I think we just need a feeling fabulous.
Super fabulous. I don't know.
And I have to ask you, is your Friday treat now, is it still a Magnum?
Yeah. Well, I can have a Magnum whenever I choose now, Sandra. I can take it or leave. Take it. Yeah. And I'm not talking, everything in moderation, including moderation. So, but no, I don't, I don't moderate the Magnum. I just don't always feel the need. But I'll have whatever I fancy. But yeah, there is an Indian takeaway on the cards tonight, you see. So, and which would probably be followed by, I don't know, maybe a Magnum. I don't know.
Oh, fantastic. Well, Siobhan, thank you for catching up.
All right.
I'll post in the group and we'll be asking people to if they've got any questions, but love your shares.
Cheers. See you later. Bye.
Thanks very much. See ya.